Before we get into the episode, if you have a suggestion on what sitcom I should look at next, leave me a message. Link in the description. Well, welcome back to Sitcom Slipups, the show where I talk about awful sitcoms so you don't have to watch them yourself. Now, before we get into the actual show we're going to be talking about today, I just like to say that it is, at the time of recording this, it is 1 in the morning, and I am very tired. After this, I'm going to collapse into bed. I don't know why I waited this long to start recording, but I did, because I am not very smart. Uh, so, yeah, I just felt like you'd want to know that. But even if I'm tired, even if I feel like just passing out on my desk right now, we're gonna talk about this subpar sitcom anyway. Because today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about the 2016 Disney Channel original sitcom that pretty much no one remembers, I'm pretty sure. Best Friends Whenever. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, mystery lad, you don't sound like you're 9 years old. Why are you talking about a show intended for children? Now look, last time we talked about the hard times of R.J. Boner or whatever. I don't care. I don't even remember. I haven't returned to the show since. Uh, and that did a number on me. Just all the penises, all the boners, all the masturbation. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I could just see RJ's just wiener just flashing in my face. I don't like it, alright? So I'm kind of trying to just separate myself and then just going on the opposite side of the spectrum. Now, I'm actually kind of disappointed that I'm having to talk about this show because not only is this show not nowhere near as vulgar as RJ Burger, not only is it far superior to RJ Burger, even though it's really bad. I'm talking about it on the show, unlike RJ Burger, where I kind of just knew it was destined to fail, I feel like this show actually has a pretty good premise, just awful execution. So two friends, Sid and Shelby, are screwing around in their friend Barry's lab. When a big accident happens, a laser goes off, blasts them, and they suddenly have the power to time travel. Now I heard this premise, I thought, wow, this actually shows a lot of promise. I think that they could pull off a pretty fun, pretty entertaining show. And they didn't at all. They came close a couple of times, but overall it's just a big disappointment, which is the main reason why I'm talking about it today. Now, before I go into the long list of things wrong with this show, let's go into the things I actually like about this show. Because unlike unlike last time, I actually do have a couple good things to say about this show. Now, easily the best thing about this show is the theme song. The theme song is honestly, it's a banger. I'll say I've actually just listened to the theme song just on Spotify when I'm just chilling. Because the thing I've noticed about like Disney Channel sitcoms, even when the show itself is just really bad, just really shitty, usually the theme songs are pretty good. I mean, there are exceptions like the Bizarre theme song, the Crash and Bernstein theme song, and spoiler, I'm probably gonna be talking about both those shows in later episodes. But most of the time, it seems like they put more effort into the theme song than the actual show, which I mean isn't ideal, but it's something. And like I said earlier, the concept is good. I mean time travel. When I think about time travel, I think about like Back to the Future. It's one of my favorite movie franchises. There's a lot of potential for time travel, and they just don't use that potential most of the time. When they actually focus on the potential of this concept, the show can actually be decent. But most of the time, they'd rather just focus on other shit that doesn't really matter. And we'll go into specifically what this shit is later. But right now, we're staying positive. We're focusing on the pros before we get to the cons. I'm gonna have a lot to say about the characters later, but my favorite character. Now, I mentioned the two main characters, Sid and Shelby. Now, out of them, my favorite character is neither of them. It's actually their dog, Diesel. I'm not kidding. My favorite character of the entire show is the dog. Now, is this just because I love dogs? Probably, but honestly, Diesel is honestly the most interesting character, which is kind of sad, but I mean, like I said, I love dogs, so I'm not entirely upset about it. But back to Sid and Shelby. I mean, for a pro, I mean, Sid is all right usually. I mean, she's pretty much just Sam from iCarly, but not as psychotic, which is a positive. But at the same time, she's not as funny, not nearly as funny as Sam. So that's a negative. But overall, I'm all right with her character. How much to complain about with her character? Now Shelby, on the other hand, we'll get into Shelby later. That's all I'm gonna say. And yeah, that's pretty much all the good I can say about this show, which isn't a lot, but that's more I can say about RJ Berger. All right, that's the last time I'm gonna mention RJ Berger in this review, probably, maybe, probably not honestly, but we'll see. Now, just for kicks, before we get into the major issues with the show, let's get on to the relatively minor stuff. The acting. Now, the acting, honestly, at first I didn't think it was that bad, but after I went back to watch it for this episode, and yeah, the acting it's horrible. And the reason this is a minor because honestly, I don't expect that much from Disney sitcoms because in most of the Disney Channel sitcoms, the acting is just terrible. So I've kind of just come to accept it. But it's definitely an issue. Now the comedy. Now, like with most Disney sitcoms, it's not good. But what's interesting about this show, I found that the show's comedy falls into three different categories. Now I'd say like 60% of the time the jokes fall into that category where if it weren't for the laugh track, now obviously the show has a laugh track, you wouldn't be able to even tell there was a joke there. It's like the joke was like pretty much non-existent. 35% said of the jokes fall into the category of where I feel like maybe if the acting was better, I'd actually find this funny, but as it is, I'm just kind of annoyed. Yeah, well, that 5% falls into jokes that really shouldn't be in this kind of show. Like jokes that are really weird. Now, what do I mean? There are these weird jokes where Sid and Shelby just turn into like feminists talking about like discrimination against women. I can't tell if they're like making fun of feminism or like making fun of the discrimination that women face. I honestly can't tell. I don't know. It confuses me, and it really shouldn't be in a show made for children. All right. In another episode, there's like a recurring gag about I mentioned the scientist character Barry. He has a friend Ronaldo, and Ronaldo keeps talking about like kissing Barry's sister. It's not funny, even though I'm laughing. It's not funny. I'm just laughing at why did they feel like they needed to put this in the show? It's just strange. And in another episode, they make a joke about it's a joke that I can't even begin to describe. So I'm just gonna play it for you.
Do you really want to live through middle school again? This was the year you got your first peer.
Not my first peer.
Yep, your first peer counseling session with Miss Kemper. And all she wanted to do was talk about your period.
Yeah, they really went there. They really felt like children needed to hear their period joke. I'm honestly, how why how did that get passed by like the censors? I just don't understand. I just don't understand like at all. It's like, and I'm surprised that like I tried like looking up like best friends whenever period joke to see if anyone was like going like just crazy over this scene like I was. It's like how are people like not going just insane over this? And I guess you could make the excuse that maybe this show was trying to make its target audience like teenagers. And in that case, I could actually see this joke kind of working, I guess. Not really, but it wouldn't be funny, but at least it would be more appropriate, I guess. But I don't know what teenager would watch this. This isn't a show that teenager would watch. This is a show that like really young kids would watch because that's the target audience for Disney Channel sitcoms. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to watch them. I thought they were really funny, but now when I'm older, I'm like, wow, this is kind of dog shit. So it really doesn't make sense for any of these jokes to be here. And another minor issue before we get into the major stuff, like pretty much all the effects in the show just it's clear they didn't have any budget. They just look really tacky. yeah, I mean, I didn't really expect that much from the effects, which is why it's in the minor, but still, like I said, it is still an issue. Now, on to the more major issues. Let's start with the characters. Now, I mentioned Diesel and Sid. I really have no problem with them. Let's talk about Shelby. There's nothing, I can't say anything about positive about her character. Well, pretty much all there is to her character. She's stupid and maybe a sociopath. I don't know. In one episode, she tries to she ruins Sid's chances of being friends with another girl just so she won't lose her. And another episode, she talks about she makes a quote unquote joke about how she rips out Sid's hair when she's asleep. It's like what the hell? And she could be really neurotic too, which really clashes with Sid's more laid back nature, which gets you thinking, why are these two friends in the first place? And they kind of addressed this in the first episode, but it's like just like oh they're friends, oh, whatever, true friendship prevails or something, which I guess is an alright message. But Shelby isn't even close to being the worst character. Then there's Barry. He slips between being like your stereotypical like science nerd and then to being just a huge pretentious asshole. Like he's always like making fun of like Sid and Shelby's like inferior intelligence. It's like, dude, always using like big science words. It's like, dude, can you please just shut the fuck up? And then there's Ronaldo. Ronaldo is completely pointless. His existence is completely pointless. I mean, Barry's existence, I feel like Barry could be written out of the show. He does some things, not enough to really, justify his existence in the show, honestly. But Ronaldo definitely could have been written out of the show. All right, there's no reason for him to be here. He's an idiot. He's just annoying. He's with every one of his lines, I just want to just put a pillow over his head and just strangle him. I'm talking about Ronaldo. I'm not talking about the actor at all. I'm sorry. Please don't cancel me. I'm not talking about murdering the actor. I'm just talking about murdering a fictional character. And you know what? Ronaldo isn't even my least favorite character in the show. My least favorite character or characters are Shelby's brothers, the twins. If Ronaldo is pointless, they're advanced pointless. They serve absolutely zero purpose but to be a nuisance, to be annoying, and they're honestly some of my least favorite characters in any show I've ever seen. I know I was talking crap about RJ Berger earlier in this episode, but I'd rather choke on RJ Berger's ma- massively oversized wang than be forced to watch another second of these twins ever again. I'm serious. If there was like more of the twins in this show, then it would honestly this would probably be one of my least favorite shows of all time. But luckily, the twins aren't in that much of the show, but they're still in it enough to just piss me off. But enough about the twins, all right? I'm done talking about them. Let's get into the big issue with the show. Why I'm talking about it today, and that's just because it takes such a great premise and just pisses on it. In most episodes, they could be focusing on fun time travel adventures, but they seem to just take like every opportunity they can to just not focus on the time travel aspect at all, just push it to the side, which is stupid because I bet because I this show caught my interest because of the time travel. I thought, wow, no other Disney sitcom has done this. I'm pretty sure. So I'm interested to see how they're gonna handle it. This may actually be pretty good. Instead, I got something pretty sad. Honestly, this show's existence makes me sad. Now, first, pretty much every episode, there are these side plots with Ronaldo and Barry that pretty much add up to nothing. I don't care about these characters. I'm not gonna care about the side plot. And sometimes you get like Shelby's parents. Oh, I didn't mention Shelby's parents. So I was talking about characters. Uh, Honestly, there's not a lot to them, so I'm not even gonna mention their characters. They're just stereotypical parents. No one cares. Sometimes you get like Shelby's parents, the twins. I honestly just couldn't care. Sometimes I found myself like skipping the side plots, just skipping ahead. It's like get to the meat of it. I don't care about these characters in the slightest. And I don't even care that much about Sid and Shelby, but I'd rather watch them in the hopes of a decent time travel adventure than watch Barry Ronaldo because I know that whatever wacky science bullcrap they're doing isn't going to add up to anything at all, and I'm just going to be left empty. So yeah, they spend way too much time on these nothing side plots, and sometimes, and way too often, they'll like force in morals. They'll take up way too much time with like forced morals. And I don't mind a moral in the show, and honestly, some of these morals are actually pretty good and pretty useful, but I just can't respect a moral when they force it in with pretty much just no just tact, no effort at all. And another way they'll take away from the time travel is that they'll just focus on like this just meandering dialogue. Just and sometimes it won't even matter. Just be like these dumb jokes won't even be relevant to the plot at all. It just annoys me. And all right, for an example, so this episode begins with the girls returning to their kindergarten years. And honestly, the first few minutes of the show, they aren't bad. And it's actually like mildly entertaining. It's relatively good. And then they return to the present, and for whatever reason, the girls just start like actually just like reverting back to their kindergarten selves. I'm pretty sure they don't even explain it. I don't know. I haven't returned that episode. But I'm pretty sure they don't even explain why. They start like reverting back to their kindergarten selves, declining in age. And most of the episode is either them talking about what's going on, about how crazy the situation is, or it's spent with Barry like trying to like something with him like breaking into like the science lab or something, getting something from the science lab. It's dumb. It's a dumb gag. And then the ending really pisses me off because they actually managed to revert Shelby back to her normal self. For some reason, Sid won't turn back to her normal self. And then they figure out it's because she doesn't want to, and because she's afraid of growing up. And that's what they turn to the moral. They really, and for the last few minutes, it's spent with this scene that's supposed to be emotional about Shelby talking to Sid about like why it's important to grow up or whatever, or why she shouldn't be scared. Honestly, I mean, I know, like I said, I know that's important for some people to hear, but it just annoys me. It's really forced, and like I said, I know they have potential to focus on something potentially great, but no, they'd rather focus on just boring scenes, dumb jokes, and forced morals. That's pretty much the entire show. So what have we learned today, kids? Don't judge a book by its cover. Because even when something looks like it may be good, looks like it has promise, it may still be a pile of dog shit. And furthermore, we've also learned even the most disappointing heaps of horse shit are probably better than the hard times of RJ Berger. Because I'd rather rewatch this entire series 10 times in a row than watch another episode of Hard Times with RJ Berger. And I'm being dead serious. But, enough about that. Next time, we're going to dip back into adult sitcoms and dip into animated sitcoms. Which animated sitcom am I going to talk about? That's for me to know and for you to find out in the next episode, my friend. Now, thanks for watching. Now, I'm going to go to bed.